Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is going to be titled People Struggle with Conversations Nowadays. Conversations are a fascinating thing when you think about it. For me, they've become one of life's underrated skills, the kind you don't really think about until you realize not everyone seems to have it. Most of my reflections on this come from personal experiences. I've had a pretty dynamic life filled with all sorts of situations that shaped the way I think. But it wasn't until I hit my 30s that I started to really value conversations. Looking back, I realized how little I cared about them in my 20s. Sure, I'd talk to people, but I didn't see it as an art or a skill. Now, I can't help but notice how many people struggle with it, whether it's because they don't know what to say or how to say it, or they're just plain rude. It's wild how the inability to have a good conversation can be so layered. Some people can't talk because they don't know what to bring up. Others might start talking but have no idea how to keep it flowing. And then there are those whose attitudes make it impossible to engage with them at all, condescending, dismissive, or just plain negative. That's the kind of energy that kills any chance of meaningful interaction. And sure, starting a conversation is hard enough, but keeping it alive, that's a whole different beast. It feels like there's this collective lack of detail, energy, or interest in making conversations engaging. Sometimes it's just small talk that dies the minute it starts. In my perfect world, conversations would flow effortlessly. Everyone would add layers of detail, make it engaging, and have fun while doing it. But that's not the reality we're working with. Instead, there are times when conversations feel like pulling teeth, awkward, draining, and downright unenjoyable. Sometimes it's the other person's vibe, the kind of energy they radiate, which either invites connection or makes you want to run in the opposite direction. And then there's judgment. Ever been in a conversation where everything you say is met with disdain? Yeah, same. It's exhausting and makes you question why you even bothered. I remember this one time I was using a random chat app. You'd request a call, and if accepted, you'd have 20 minutes to talk to a stranger. Sounds fun in theory, right? Well, I ended up talking to this woman, and every single thing I said was met with, no, that's not right, followed by her opinion. It wasn't even a discussion, it was just her shutting me down repeatedly. By the end of the first conversation, I'd already decided I wasn't calling her again. It's like she couldn't even entertain the possibility of someone else's perspective. Conversations like that feel more like a chore than an exchange of ideas. What I've realized is that compatibility plays a huge role in how conversations unfold. Some people click and the words flow effortlessly. Others, not so much. It's not even about one person being better or worse at talking. It's just a mismatch. What's dull and uninspired to me might be totally engaging for someone else. That thought has helped me come to terms with the idea that not everyone is meant to have great conversations together. It's about finding the right people who match your rhythm and style. Still, part of me wishes it didn't have to be this way. Deep down, I'd love to live in a world where everyone could connect effortlessly, where conversations were less about compatibility and more about mutual effort. But I have to admit, that's probably a pipe dream. Not everyone is going to vibe with everyone else, and that's just how it is. It's a tough pill to swallow, but understanding that not all interactions will be meaningful has helped me manage my expectations. Sometimes it's not even about the other person, it's about my own high hopes for what a conversation should be. I also think about my younger self, back when conversations weren't a priority for me. Maybe that's where some people are now. They're focused on other things, and having deep, engaging conversations isn't high on their list, and that's okay. People have different values, and not everyone sees communication the way I do now. It doesn't mean they're incapable of having meaningful talks. It just might not be something they care to develop. I mean, I didn't care for most of my 20s, so who am I to judge? That said, I've also started to wonder if part of the problem is my own approach. Maybe I set the bar too high. I go into conversations expecting them to be interesting, thought provoking, or at least fun. When they're not, I get frustrated. But I'm starting to accept that not every chat is going to be groundbreaking. Sometimes they're just small, mundane exchanges that don't really go anywhere. And That's okay. Learning to let go of those expectations has been freeing, even if it's still a work in progress. At the end of the day, I think the key is being selective. It's about choosing who you engage with and being intentional about where you invest your energy. You can usually tell early on if someone's worth the effort. If they're dismissive or uninterested, it's probably best to move on. But then again, there's value in persistence too. Some conversations take time to warm up, and what feels awkward at first might blossom into something great if you stick with it. For me, it's about striking a balance between knowing when to walk away and when to lean in. So, yeah, conversations are tricky. They're messy, imperfect, and often frustrating, but they're also beautiful when they click. And while I can't control how others approach them, I can control my own mindset and who I choose to engage with. It's a challenge, sure, but one worth navigating. Because when you find those rare people who get it, who make talking feel effortless and fun, it reminds you why conversations matter in the first place. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Signing out. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye for now.